And okay. Sorry about that, folks. Welcome to Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. And it is May 21st, 2021, Friday night discussion, genre talk. Tonight's topic is scary stories to tell in the dark. Welcome, my co-host for the evening, John Norris.
Hello, everybody.
And usually we put our little disclaimer at the series. Don't have the graphics today, but just so you guys know, this is meant to be a TV-16 show. While some of the topics we'll talk about, like tonight, we're talking about kids' books, children's books, supposedly, but we gear it more towards educational discussion for adults to service for interaction with their youth. In other words, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, librarians, etc. And sometimes we do have foul language, so we are TV-16. Okay. So how are you doing this week?
I'm doing well. Like we were talking before the show, I'm staying busy. Got 2 shows in preparation, and in addition to church stuff and my regular job. So I'm keeping occupied. How about you?
Well, this summer is pretty much the summer of get rid of all the old art and get ready to prepare for the new and get some new stuff out there on the market.
Out with the old, in with the new, huh?
Yeah, it's spring cleaning. Only it's going to take all summer long. You would not believe I've already thrown out like 70 previews catalogs.
Well, I can believe that.
Yeah, actually, you probably can, because he knows I get the previews catalogs every month for ordering. But and he's seen the stacks in my house. But I tossed out a bunch of them this week. So I've been doing a lot of other things as well. And Pop Culture says hello. He's got company over, but he is listening. Okay. So let's go ahead and get straight to it. This week's subject is scary stories to tell in the dark. We're talking about the book. We're talking about the artwork. We're talking about the documentary film. And we're talking about the 2019 film adaptation that was done by Guillermo del Toro. And
I didn't even know there was a documentary film associated with it.
Well, that I actually made the mistake of getting the documentary film thinking it was the Guillermo del Toro movie from the library. So I was like, oh, I got that first. Okay. So we'll be talking about a bunch of different things, but let's start with the book. And John has not seen the book, but we will show him the artwork in the book. Those are all DVDs and CDs behind John, I believe.
Yes. Yep, that is my movie and CD collection, and then my vinyl LP collection is off to the side here.
Yeah, he's not much of a book person per se. I mean, he does have books. Don't get us wrong. He does read, but he's not a bibliophile per se. Yeah, I'm the guy that has all the books. He says, awesome. So let's go ahead and start with the books. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the book, originally was published by Harper and Row, which is now HarperCollins, back in 81. They did it for 10 years, 81 to 91, took a long break. And then HarperCollins restarted launching it in 2011 with a new artwork edition. And then there was a controversy over that. So they just redid the book with the original artist. The author, these stories are collected and presented by Alvin Schwartz, who rewrites them. But the stories are basically Americana folklore and urban myths based thereon. The original illustrator was Stephen Gamel. And then the 2011 edition was illustrated by Brett Helquist, which I do not have. But originally it was released back in October 14th, 1981. How old were you back then, John?
I would have been 6 years old.
I would have been 9. And I did not remember seeing this book back then. I don't remember seeing it ever until recently. So it's interesting. But anyway, what it's about. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is a series of 3 collections of short horror stories for children written by Alvin Schwartz, originally illustrated by Stephen Gamel. The 3 books each that are in this collection that I've got with me, each feature numerous short stories in the horror genre. Schwartz drew heavily from folklore, urban legends as a topic of his stories, researching extensively and spending more than a year on each edition of the book. Acknowledged influences include Shakespeare, T.S. Eliot, Mark Twain, Joel Chandler Harris, Bennett Cerf, and Jan Harold Brunvand. Again, the first volume was published in 1981, and the books have subsequently been collected in both a box set and a single volume. The first book contained 29 stories, including The Big Toe, The Walk, What Did You Come For, Nitai Doti Walker, A Man Who Lived in Leeds, Old One All Skin and Bone, The Thing, Cold as Clay, The White Wolf, The Haunted House, The Guest, The Hearst Song, The Girl Who Stood on a Grave, A New Horse, Alligators, Room for One More, The Wendigo, The Dead Man's Brains, May I Carry Your Basket, The Hook, The White Satin Evening Gown, High Beams, The Babysitter, The Viper, The Attic, The Slithery D, Aaron Kelly's Bones, Wait Till Martin Comes, and The Ghost with the Bloody Fingers. Most of these stories are only 1 to 4 pages long, very quick reading. And I think that was done on purpose, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I read the book I read the first 20 or so stories before I actually watched the movie, just to see what I would get an idea of what was going on. John has not read the book, so he's only familiar with the movie, but the movie has nothing to do with the book. It does. It has elements that they adapt they adapt the stories into the context of the narrative of the movie, but the movie is its own separate thing. And we'll explain more why later. Clearly, because these stories are so short, I think that's why the books were targeted towards younger readers whose shorter attention spans theoretically waver for longer prose work. And perhaps it was because the stories are so short, that was why they were deemed marketable to an elementary level readership, as opposed to a more young adult teen audience. It's hard to say. At first, I thought maybe the YA market just wasn't around when this was being produced, but then I did a little research and I found out that the market was coined in the late 1960s with S.E. Hilton's The Outsiders from 67 or 68 and was heavily marketed in the 1970s. So that's the 12 and up audience. And I think that 12 and up is a decent range for these stories.
Yeah.
Maybe even a few are okay for younger audiences, maybe 10 and up. So why did we have the controversy and banning of this book become so prominent? Well, part of the reason, I think, again, is the shortness of the books, or shortness of the stories. Monster Fan says he worked in Walden Books back in 87, 88. Couldn't keep the books in stock, very popular. Yeah, somehow it just zipped past me, and I don't know why. Prose versions of EC comics? No. I think EC's even more thorough in a way than these. I mean, these are so short. There's like almost nothing to them, in my opinion. But again, what happens is this is kind of like an oral history, and you got these very short stories that a young person can remember reading and then recite very quickly. So, okay, you read it, it's 4 to 12 and up. You have a babysitter who's a 14 or 15-year-old babysitter, and they're babysitting 6 or 7-year-olds, and they decide to recite the story that they just read. Now that younger kid's exposed to it. I think that's a lot of what was really going on, more so than younger kids getting it out of the school library or other libraries that weren't supposed to be getting the book. That's just my opinion, but this is Stephen Gamel's artwork. Doesn't that look a little bit like Ted Davies' art?
A little bit.
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know if Ted's watching tonight or not, but I told him he should check this guy's art out because I could see similarities in this and what Ted does. But like, here's the big toe. And in the actual story of the big toe, a farmer pulls a toe out of the ground and then puts it in the stew and eats it. And then the zombie comes out because you took the toe out of the ground. But in the movie, it's a completely different thing. But this is how short this is for the story, John. You see that much text there.
Yeah.
Now you see where it's that whole one page, and then it says, where that blank, you've got it. That's the whole story.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. There's really nothing to these, and so I was a little bit surprised. Here's another one called The Walk. Again, very atmospheric, beautiful illustration by Stephen Gamel. Again, I can see Ted Davies just screams like this to me. I can see Ted doing this when he's really on his game. There's the whole story. 4 paragraphs. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of these stories are so short that it's very easy that a younger person could easily remember the whole story and verbalize it during a campfire setting or during a babysitting situation when they're trying to tell the kid a story before they go to bed or whatever. Here's the original design for the Me Tai Doty Walker, which came out of the in the jail cell scene in the movie. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
So, but I mean, there's just cool things in here. There's the thing. But I think that this artwork kind of unsettled something. Okay. That was a poster that just fell off the wall. And I'm not happy about that, but I'll worry about it later. It's nothing serious. Um, Pop Culture Adventure says good creepy art. Yeah, it is. But where did I guess parents were like, this art was spooking their kids somehow. I don't really see it. I mean, maybe I would say it was spooky, but then again, I wouldn't say it was spooky as much as cool, to look at, even when I
It,
was a kid.
it's more atmospheric than it is spooky to
Yeah,
me.
yeah. And there's the hook. I mean, there's a few things in here that maybe are a little bit weird. I'm trying to find the horse person thingy. I mean, this is a little creepy, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's like the ghost of the character that is telling the stories in the movie, basically. Okay, I must have missed it. Let me see if I can find it. That's the basket. That's that one. I know it's got to be in here. There's quite a beautiful artwork in here, but I want to find the one with the.
Does that hardcover collect all of the stories?
Mm-hmm. There's like 76 or 78 stories in here. Yeah, this is the this is the 3 books, the first 3 anyway. I think there's some additional material that Schwartz did after it, but these are the 3 primary books. Okay, here we go. The little black dog that has human limbs.
Wow.
There's a few creepy things like that in there, but again,
That's actually kind of cool.
yeah. If you want to know what fell, it was my X-Men poster.
Okay.
Yeah, the sticking putty and just didn't hold it anymore. I have to redo it again. It's a very annoying poster. It doesn't want to stay out there all the time. Alrighty. I think, like I said, the banning of the book. Pardon me. The banning of the book had to do more with parents who just, I don't know. I mean, your parents were around. My parents were around. But I can remember in the 80s where my fellow kids in the neighborhood, their parents were home.
Mm-hmm.
They were, because back in that era, we'd just come out of a major recession in the 70s from the OPEC crisis. We were just starting to rebuild, and people were working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, and they just weren't home. And I think that still stayed true in the 80s, even though economically we built to excess. I think people actually worked more to try and get that money to save in case we had another recession, which of course we have had several since the 80s. We've had 2 or 3 of them. But I think that that restructured our societal values in that era. And I think this is representational of the parent who's not there for their kid, doesn't know what's going on with their kid. The kid gets this book and then something happens and they're freaked out over a book or over a movie they saw. And the parents want to blame everything but the fact that they're not there for their kids. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I can remember going to a friend's house, and it was like 8 months before I met his father, because his father was always at work.
Mm.
And I can remember going over to his house, and his mom wasn't home either because he was working. Both of them were working. And I played video games with them for like 8 or 10 hours. And my parents Here's the difference of pop culture adventure. It says your shirt looks like a critter with a straw hat. It's a scarecrow. That's all I know. I was trying to pay homage to Harold without, I don't actually have Harold, obviously, but as I was saying, this was like 83 or 84 when I did this. And, okay, I was missing for like 8 hours. My parents didn't know where I was, right?
Right.
The police had an APB out on me within that time. Today, if I was missing 8 hours, they would tell my parents, wait another 24 to 40 before we worry about it. Am I right or am I right?
I think you're right. Unfortunately.
And yeah. You can only see the eyes. Now he sees the whole scarecrow. Yeah, because it was just how I was seated more than anything else. I'm like that. Yeah, too slouched. My bad. But yeah, it's that's the problem we have in the gut there, Pop. You don't always get to see the full image on the shirts properly. But anyway, I think that's the kind of thing that goes on, though, is the difference in our culture. I mean, today, when we were kids, you could go outside, you could go play in the yard, you could go play a couple blocks away at a playground, and your parents wouldn't be that worried about you. Today, if you leave the house, they want you to have, practically a chip inside you to find you in case something goes wrong. And not without some validation. I mean, there are things out in the world that it was there when we were kids, but I don't think it was as common as it seems to be today. I don't know. Yeah. It's weird. But I think that's, I think that those are the kind of fears that generated their ire against this book, which I think is funny because, like I say, it's all urban myths and folklore that have been going on for decades, if not centuries. So what's the big deal? But it is what it was and still is. It's one of the most banned books or challenged books in literature to this day. So let's go talk about some of these stories again. Like I said, the babysitters tell their kids that were younger the stories. I'll go ahead and show this screen real quick. Like I said, they're short enough that a young person can easily remember them and then orally retell them to friends or younger siblings. Tens of thousands of preteen and teenage babysitters out there retelling these stories to their younger siblings or their young charges before bed. The smaller child has a nightmare. Investigation is conducted by the parent as to why this happened. They learn the story came from a book that the kid got at their school library. Instead of being adult and holding the kid responsible for not telling a story they shouldn't have been telling to a younger kid, they go and blame the school. Or they go blame the library that's carrying it where they got the book from. How many of these kids heard the story before they ever saw the book? A lot of them, I think. But and as a result, the book has become its own urban legend due to the controversy of these parents. It's like a badge of honor to sneak the book out of the library or out of a school and read it. That was what was mentioned by a lot of the adults that read this book back in the 80s. It was like, okay, during the documentary. So speaking of the documentary, let's go ahead and talk about that. Scary Stories, the story of the books that frightened a generation. Came out in 2018, produced by Cody Merrick and Donna Davies, directed by Cody Merrick. Production companies, Giant Thumb Studios. Distributor is Wild Eye Releasing All Media. Again, it was a genre, as a documentary. The cover that you see on DVD cover here is actually a sculpture that was made out of one of Gamel's drawings of one of the characters in the book. And they actually made a, 3D sculpture piece of it, and they shot it for this. I thought it was pretty cool looking sculpture, honestly. But anyway, it was released on May 7th, 2019, runtime of 1 hour and 24 minutes. It's a good documentary, explains the history of who and what Alvin Schwartz was, both before and after the series. He started out writing as a journalist, and when he started doing this collection of short stories, he was doing it more as a journalist to talk about history and oral storytelling, and that's where this led. And then the history of the controversy surrounding books, starting notably with the Kirkland, Washington case, where the book was challenged for being in an elementary school library. Again, John hasn't seen this, so I found this documentary the most fascinating of the three items. I had not been familiar with the original books, had not even heard of them. I don't know why I hadn't heard of them. I was a voracious reader in the 80s. I guess you just can't read everything. I got this because, again, I thought this was the film adaptation of the books, which John and I will get to in a moment. I do think that there's validation for the controversy over where exactly the book should be placed. Does it belong in elementary school libraries, John?
No, I don't think so. Just based on watching the movie, I can, I would agree with, ages 12 and up or 10 and up, but under 10 years old, probably not.
Yeah.
So definitely not elementary school material.
Yeah. Again, neither one of us would have a problem with it being in a junior high school or a high school library. But the thing is, elementary school usually goes up to 5th grade. And you figure 3rd grade is age 9 to 10. So it's a hit, and it really depends on. It's not so much it doesn't belong in an elementary school library. I think it does, however, need to be marked accordingly for the right age group, and a librarian should have enough sense to know when someone's too young for it, or if a younger reader wants it, to get permission from the parent before they can check it out. That interaction, that awareness between the parent and the adult supervisors would prevent a lot of the nonsense, I think. Again, we showed some of the art from the book. I don't think it would have creeped me out even back in elementary school, just to take a look out of it. I think it looks cool. In context to the stories, maybe some of it would here and there. I don't know. I can't revert myself back to 6 or 7 and tell you. As an adult, it doesn't bother me, but I can't understand where it might bother some parents. I think you can too.
Yeah.
But I'm also of the mind that just because something isn't right for my child doesn't mean everybody else's child should be deprived of it either.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's where the controversy lies. Because when you start banning content from a library, whether it's this book or Huckleberry Finn, which has been challenged, or it's just whatever book it is, you're depriving the general community the opportunity for those who want to read it to have that opportunity. You're saying, well, you can't have it in the library. You can't get that and borrow it for free. If you want it, you have to go out and spend your hard-earned money and go find it and bring it to your own home, because I don't want it in the public where anybody can have that and share that. And I think that's where the controversy lies. Just not so much is it censorship, or is it people just not having enough common sense to understand that just because something's not for you doesn't mean other people can't have it.
I think it's that
Yeah.
more than anything.
And, we see that culture growing exponentially over the last 30 years, 40 years. Not just in books, but we've seen it in comics. That's what Comicsgate is sort of about. It's what this anti-SJWism is about. Anything that we don't like, well, you can't have that because it's not what I like type attitude. There are audiences for these things. And I'm not saying that all these audiences are huge and wildly successful and popular, but they exist. And we have an obligation to, as long as it's earning a profit of some level, to produce product for that audience. And I think that's what Schwartz had died by the time some of this had came about. He died of cancer right before this documentary was made. And I believe, if I remember correctly from what the documentary said, so the person who actually filed the original complaint in the Kirkland schools did not get to meet him in person. They were planned to meet.
Oh, wow.
And discuss. So instead, they put the guy's son with her and had a conversation. And you could tell, I mean, it's been, it was many, many years after the fact, type thing. But you could tell she still had her beliefs, but she wasn't as fervent in her beliefs either. She was more open-minded to listen to what was being said, about it. So, I think it's a big difference between, I guess, a mom who's protective of her parents and a grandma, because she's a grandma now. But yeah, it's interesting. But I did enjoy the history of Schwartz and the commentaries that different people who appeared in the film made. Obviously, R.L. Stine was in the documentary, talking about how this book influenced Goosebumps, and the popularity of that series, of course. There were several different people that talked about the fan culture that the book has created, and how they showed this basically as art gallery showing that could be its own traveling museum show without too much difficulty, and how it's really not that much different from most other fan cultures, whether that's comics fan culture, television show, animation show, film culture. You could very easily see people cosplay these characters that are in these books. It'd be very interesting to see what that would come out looking like. Again, you see the sculpture here with the face and the teeth showing it with the corncob pipe. That's one of the displays that's in their art gallery. They show a lot of the original Gamel art, so that you can actually see the actual artwork in its full size at the show and all kinds of stuff. And I really enjoyed looking at that. I thought it was a very interesting and thoughtful presentation that gave a fair, if inconclusive, showing of both Schwartz and the parents' views who pursued to ban his books. It's not rated, and I gave it 4.5 stars. So let's talk about the movie, which you have seen.
Yes. Just saw it last night.
Yeah, both of us watched it last night, actually, so it's fresh in our minds. And I'll let you go ahead and read it.
So this is the 2019 film, produced by Jason F. Brown, Jitang Chen, Jackie Chung, J. Miles Dale, Sean Daniel, Guillermo del Toro, Alex Guinness, Roberto Grande, Elizabeth Grave, Joshua Long, and Peter Luo. Directed by Andre Overdahl. Written by Dan and Kevin Hageman. Screenplay with Guillermo del Toro, Patrick Melton, and Marcus Dunstan handling the screen story. And of course, as we've just talked about, it's based on the book series by Alvin Schwartz. Production companies, CBS Films, Entertainment One, Rolling Hills Productions, 1212 Entertainment, Double Dare You, which I think is Del Toro's production company, Hive Mind, Canadian Film or Video Production Services Tax Credit, PSTC with the participation of Starlight Culture Entertainment and Sierra/Affinity as Sierra Pictures. Whew.
A lot of people.
Yes. I need to take a drink after that.
Okay, I'll continue it. The distributor for the U.S. is Lionsgate 2019. They had 17 different distributors, but we're just going to worry about what was in the U.S. And that is Lionsgate 2019 for theatrical. The genre is horror. It was released in theaters August 9th, 2019, and has a runtime of 1 hour and 46 minutes. What it's about. On Halloween 1968, Stella and her two friends meet this mysterious drifter Ramon and uncover a sinister notebook of stories. On Halloween 1968, in the small town of Mill Valley, Pennsylvania, 3 teen friends, Stella, Augie, and Chuck, prank their bully Tommy Milner. When Tommy and his gang chase them in retaliation, the trio flees to a drive-in movie theater where a young drifter named Ramon hides them in his car. They invite Ramon to explore a local haunted house that once belonged to the wealthy Bellows family who helped found the town, Mill Valley. Inside, they find a book of horror stories written by Sarah Bellows, who allegedly committed suicide in the house. Having followed the group, Tommy locks them inside along with Ruth, Chuck's sister. They escape and Stella takes Sarah's book. But Sarah discovers a new story being written in the book, entitled Harold, being written in Sarah's book, just magically appearing in blood in the book. Meanwhile, in reality, an inebriated Tommy is stalked by the titular Harold, which is the family scarecrow that you see on the image here, after it comes to life. The creature stabs Tommy with a pitchfork, causing Tommy to vomit hay and undergo a violent transformation. Tommy is later reported as missing, and Stella and Ramon find Harold dressed in Tommy's clothes in the cornfield. Stella is convinced that Tommy has now become the scarecrow. That night, a new story, The Big Toe, appears with Augie as the main character. The pair, Stella and Ramon, attempt to warn him about the monster that's about to get him, a zombie searching for its missing toe, which is inside a stew that Augie unwittingly eats. Augie disappears after the zombie drags him under his bed, and we never see Augie again for the rest of the movie. So we assume he is just dragged to whatever alternate universe or whatever. Realizing that they are next, the remaining friends, that would be Stella, Ramon, Chuck, and Ruth, they try to destroy the book, and it proves impossible because the book is magical or whatever. It's fire doesn't do anything to it, water doesn't do anything to it. It's there. So they decide to research Sarah's life in hopes of finding a solution to get this to stop. In the meantime, a new story, The Red Spot, is written. When Ruth discovers a swollen spider bite on her cheek, it explodes and releases hundreds of tiny spiders, which is an actual story in the book. That was one of the good scenes in the movie too. She is rescued, but she is traumatized by the experience and placed in a mental institution due to what happens. That leaves Stella, Ramon, and Chuck. Their investigation takes them to a local hospital where they discover that Sarah's brother performed electroshock therapy on Sarah as part of a cover-up operation. The family's mill had been poisoning the town's water with mercury, and Sarah was tortured by her family for trying to reveal the truth and then blamed her for the deed. At the hospital, Chuck is attacked by the Pale Lady, which is a phantom from his recurring nightmares, who absorbs him, and he disappears. Stella and Ramon are arrested for trespassing on the hospital grounds by Police Chief Turner, who reveals that Ramon is a Vietnam War draft dodger. Ramon reveals to Stella that it was out of his fear after his brother enlisted in the service and his dead body returned to them in pieces, basically. He got blown up over in Vietnam. They returned his body. Chief Turner's dog begins to act strangely, and Ramon realizes that the next creature will be the Jangly Man, a monster from a campfire story that frightened him as a child. The Jangly Man kills Turner by breaking his neck before attempting to kill Ramon. And here's where my pet peeve comes with the film, and we'll talk about that in a minute, is that this whole scene right here. Ramon and Stella escape, and Ramon lures the creature away with Turner's car while Stella goes to the Bellows house to try to put an end to Sarah's actions. The Jangly Man chases Ramon and ends up getting smashed against the grill of I wrote on a car, it's actually against the grill of a truck, semi-truck. Ramon gets out of the police car and runs to the Bellows house where he hides from the Jangly Man under the floor in modern times. Meanwhile, Stella is now taken back in time and hides under a table with the help of a young Lulu Baptiste, who was the daughter of the maid of the Bellows residence. But she's eventually found. Living out part of Sarah's existence and experience of the torture, her family throws Stella into the basement area and locks her away with no lights. And she ends up confronting Sarah's ghost and promises that she will tell the real story of Sarah's life and the truth of her innocence if she stops harming people with her stories. Stella writes down the true story in blood before she, the Jangly Man, and all the previous monsters vanish. She writes the truth about Sarah's life in the papers to the town, keeping her promise. Ramon accepts his enlistment in the military and shares an emotional goodbye with Stella before he leaves for the war. Stella drives away with her father and a recovered Ruth and states that she believes that they will find a way to rescue Chuck and Augie as the film ends. Aim for the heart, Ramon, fistful of dollars. Okay. The biggest problem I had with this movie was the Jangly Man scene in the jail where the cop is killed. And the reason I say this is because we never see the officer brought back to life. And therefore, Stella and Ramon escaped jail with a dead body of the cop that was overseeing them. He's not going in the military. He's going to prison for murder of a cop, and so is she. That was my one hang-up with this film, and that's why it went from a 4.5 to a 3.5, right there. They just didn't. I kept waiting for them to resolve this. How are they going to explain his death and get them out of this? And they never did. They completely forgot about having to do it, or whatever the resolution was cutting room floor material and was edited out. I don't know for sure because we don't have an unedited version, obviously. But did that something you noticed or?
Actually, I didn't even think about it until you just mentioned it now.
Yeah. So that's what I think. I think most people just didn't even think about it, but it just immediately came to my mind that way for some reason. I don't know. I think part of it was because I didn't think they needed to kill the cop. I really didn't see that. I think, maybe, knocking the cop out or, the guy faints or something, but he doesn't need to be killed. I just didn't see the point of that. For that very reason, if he had been fainted out and then she got the keys and they escaped anyway, he at least would have been an adult that would have understood what was going on because that was his realization that yes, this is happening. There had been one more person in their corner, so to speak. Whereas to me, it was like, okay, that it made it so there was no way for them to get out of the situation without them getting in some major trouble. And I just, they didn't resolve it, so I was a little bit perturbed by that. But other than that, I enjoyed the film. Did you see any flaws in the film other than that?
No, for what it was, I enjoyed it too.
Yeah. Jingly Man is a Black Lives Matter supporter. That doesn't work for me. You just said Latino Lives Matter supporter, seeing that Ramon was Latino. I just said, okay. I get the joke, but it was interesting that they said it back in 1968 as well. I don't know if you watched the additional material or just the film.
I only had time to watch the film. I read somewhere, I think, where it was Guillermo del Toro said the reason they did that is they wanted it to be in a time where there was no internet.
Right. There was no internet, and they wanted to show the oral histories more and how stories change and can become true the more you repeat it, because they wanted to show it in that era, because it happened so fast with the internet that the stories don't even get told the same. So do they have the same power? Well, yes, they do, because there's always a certain amount of truth or falsehood that carries through as a narrative, but it gets so disseminated through the internet by so many different sources that maybe it doesn't have the same power as what they were saying these stories had in that era. And I think there's a truth to that too, because we don't, well, you've taken the kids from your church out for camping excursions. You do campfire storytelling, right?
I've done it before.
Yeah. And,
and these are exactly the type of stories that you would tell around the campfire.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is, in today's age, half your students or half your charges would be sitting there with their face in their phone instead of listening.
Yep.
So I think that's why there's they wanted to set it in that era, was to get that kind of thing where you didn't have that disconnect from the small town unity and stuff like they were doing in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I noticed, though, was they wanted to do a narrative where they could show minorities in a sense of what was going on without having that in your face SJWism that is commonplace in today's time.
Mm-hmm.
Having Ramon be Hispanic and they call him a wetback, and they destroy his car and paint wetback all over his car and all this other stuff as a slur towards Hispanic Americans at the time. The way the cop treats him as undesirable. And really, there's no reason for him to be an undesirable at all. He's just,
right.
Yeah, I think his camera's just a little bit wonky tonight. He says you look like in the fog. It's his lighting above him. It kind of gives it a certain type of glare, and sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's foggy looking. But tonight he's got the fog.
But hey, the fog, another scary story to tell in the dark. So there you go.
Yeah. What did you think of the cast in this film?
I liked it, and I liked that there was no celebrities in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I think it really helped you focus on the character
Mm-hmm.
instead of going, "Oh yeah, I know that guy from somewhere."
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really didn't. There wasn't one person that I recognized from any other movie or TV show,
Hmm.
so, which I thought worked in the film's favor.
Well, I would think you would have recognized Stella's father, but he's not that really in the film that much, so you could have very easily just not thought about it too.
Right.
But yeah, most of the actors are relative new, unknown type.
Mm-hmm.
Pop culture says I meant telling stories by the campfire, like in The Fog's beginning.
Well, there you go.
Okay. Well, no, it just, when you're funny like that, because I mean, he does look like he's in the fog in a way where the lighting is. But anyway, but yeah, I was rather surprised. I thought that some of the actors were younger than they're older than I thought they were. There we go. Particularly the actress who plays Stella. She's 2 years older than I thought she was. So I was like, oh, okay. That is kind of the weird thing about the casting that they do when you get people that are in their mid to late teens and early 20s, and they can play younger or older, depending on how you make them up. It was just like, okay, how old is she supposed to really be here? But sorry, I got something in my eye here. I did not like the actor who played Chuck very well for some reason. He was annoying to me. I don't know if that was the actor so much as the character. That's the one who played the spider kid.
Yeah.
Just to remind you.
The one who got absorbed by the pale woman.
Yes. Which, it's interesting to see what they want to come up with that. Obviously, with the way the movie ended with the narrative, Sarah and Ruth have the book. I guess what they could do. I mean, she has, Sarah has control over, or not Sarah, but Stella has control over the book now. And she has the old stories of what happened to them. All she has to do is prick her finger for the blood and write the story and bring them back, is what I would think.
Yeah.
But in so doing, what does that cause? And obviously they like Del Toro said, they only did like 4 or 5 major stories, like the Big Toe and Harold and a few others, but they did a little nuance, a little tip of the hats to some of the other ones. New story: the Jangly Man versus the Slender Man as they fight over a victim. I don't know. That's kind of interesting. One thing I did like about the Jangly Man, and this is funny because of how they did the narrative of this. And it does play into Ramon because, like you said, as a kid, it scared him. And the Jangly Man can fall into different parts and reconnect itself and stuff. And of course, his brother was brought back to him in pieces from being blown up in Vietnam. My father has these recurring nightmares of being in Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
That all the VC and stuff they killed came back as zombies.
Wow.
And so he has, and they're all like the Jiggly Men. They can fall apart, come up, put themselves back together in all kinds of weird configurations. And you keep shooting them and they fall apart, come back together, keep coming at you. He's had that for decades. He keeps telling me he's going to write down everything so I can adapt it into a comic book graphic novel someday. But I don't think he'll ever do it. Because, they don't show you that Jangly Man is nude, but my dad is like, when he describes it, he tells you it's all there. It's weird stuff, but one of these days, he has that nightmare, so I could see where that would be effective. But it'd be interesting to see what they do with a sequel, if they actually ever do a sequel. The movie did make a profit. You give it a 3.5. I give it a 3.5.
Yep.
Okay. How come you give it a 3.5? We know why I gave it a 3.5, because I had the problem with the plot there. But
I thought it was a well done movie. I don't think it would be. It's not a masterpiece. I don't think anybody would consider it one, but it for what it was enjoyable and well done.
Okay. Well, have you ever watched Are You Afraid of the Dark? Nickelodeon.
No.
Okay. Let's see. Have you ever watched any of the Goosebumps TV show?
One or two episodes, and it was a long time ago.
Right. All I'm saying is, I think Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, all these things were actually spin-offs of this idea. And I wonder, because these were all very successful franchises in their own right, whether it's film or books, TV show, that I don't remember there being. I mean, I know Goosebumps got some resistance from parent groups again. Maybe not as loudly as this one did, but I don't remember like Are You Afraid of the Dark from Nickelodeon being attacked by censorship, saying this isn't appropriate for kids. And I could be wrong, but it's interesting that they do those sort of things, and it's okay on one media but not in another. Because TV. I mean, if it run, I forget when Nickelodeon ran it.
I want to say it was in the 90s.
Well, no, I'm talking about what time of day.
Oh, that I don't know.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Yeah, it ran from 90 to 96. Let's see. It ran originally in YTV in Canada, and then Nickelodeon from 91. Let's see. Maybe because they also had the thing of being connection to the Twilight Zone, because I always said submitted for your approval at the beginning of the storyline. So maybe they were getting the point across there. I don't know. But let me see. I don't see where it says what time they ran it. Yeah, it doesn't. It says what date they aired, but not what time. So it makes a difference in when something airs. If it was aired at nighttime on the channel, younger kids would probably be in bed. But if it was aired like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's prime time for kids to be watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't really know for sure. That's interesting. I'm thinking if they make another one of these, there's 79 stories and they covered like 15 and really only 5 seriously. How are they going to do this and get all the stories in? Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess for me, it's like, should it have been a major motion picture or should it have been a TV series?
Now, a TV series would be something.
With each one of those expanded to a 22-minute, half-hour show segment or something. I think that would have been very interesting to do. Of course, like I said, some of these are so short that, I don't know how you'd expand it even to that long. We've only been on the show for an hour. We've already covered most everything. But Pop Culture Avenger says, I used to watch Monsters, Tales from the Dark Side a lot. Yeah, we all did, I think, in the 80s and 90s. Monsters, Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt when you had on HBO. The 80s Twilight Zone that Straczynski did for a while. What else was there? Because there's a lot of them that they had in that era, that type of they redid Outer Limits in the 80s, early 90s. Geez, I mean, it's so much stuff, but all of it was really good as far as I was concerned. I watched all that stuff. Nowadays, it's, I don't know, Law and Order, every division of every station of every net.
Right.
It's CSI New York, CSI Las Vegas, CSI Miami, CSI up your nose with the rubber hose. That's how they killed him. It's like, why do we have to have the same stuff over and over and over? And I guess it's, this speaks truth, not just in all of our media. I mean, we complain about how there's too many X books, there's too many Spider-Man books, too many Batman books. Same thing goes on TV, as we just discussed. So, I don't care if it's half hour or an hour, but well done stuff. Twilight, Night Gallery. Ray Bradbury's theater when they had that going on was good. They could, do Harlan Ellis's Dream Corridor and do adaptations of all of Harlan's old stuff that hasn't been adapted over to stories and for film or television. Of course, Harlan's gone, so he probably wouldn't want that done. I don't know what his wife or whatever would want, but I could easily see Straczynski and Peter David front running that type of a show very easily, given their history with Harlan. But yeah, I think we need that kind of stuff, though. It is, there was Erie, Indiana, that was along similar lines. But I don't know what it is. I think we just we lose something. I mean, I guess there was a new Twilight Zone that was headed up by who did
Jordan Peele.
Yeah, and it's like I haven't seen any of them, so I don't have anything to say about it as far as how good or bad it is, because I can't judge something I haven't seen. But the negative attitude towards it was enlightening. I don't understand why there was such a negative attitude towards it. Was it just because a black guy is hosting it and running it as showrunner, or is it?
I would hope not, but who knows?
How about you, Pop Culture? Have you seen the new Jordan Peele Twilight Zone? Maybe you can shed some light on us on that one. Wait for him to give his response. In the meantime, I'm going to look up that it was one season with 10 episodes, I guess. No, there's 20 episodes. All right. And there's been 2 seasons. So there is only 10 episodes per season. That's not very many episodes. That's not even half a season. Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. For how stuff is usually done, it's usually a 13 is half a season, 26 is a full season, but or 22 the most. It's 26, but usually 22. He has good actors in it. I don't know. Let's see. I'm just looking at it. I guess some of the people thought that the newer versions were too long. Who knows? Because I guess again, usually the Twilight Zone that Rod Serling did was half an hour, and I think that the new ones were an hour long. That might make a difference. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't say. All right. Pop culture of interest. Do you remember Up All Night with Rhonda Shear? It would be great to see another B movie late night host.
Was it on the USA Network?
Yes, it was on the USA Network. I don't know. The B movie stuff. I mean, there's Sven Gulli. There's other regional B movie late night hosts that you can kind of find on the internet. You can kind of find in some connections with Dish Network or Wi-Fi TV. But no, I don't think there's anybody who's been as popular as Rhonda or Elvira. I seem to remember there was a B movie vixen starlet who hosted a show called Ms. Monster and her monstrous melons. She actually had a comic book out too for a while there in the late 90s, early 2000s. And she had her own movie, and she had these 2 monster melons that they're actual, melons, and she'd always have them up here and holding them in her hands. But let me see if I can find that real quick. That would be funny to show. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing that. And he says he hasn't seen the new Twilight Zone. He forgot about Svengoolie. That's easy to do. Let's see if I can find anything to show there. There's Ms. Monster.
Huh.
And there's her two monster melons. I don't mind the B movies because I've been mostly disappointed with new movies over the last several years. Well, I think it just depends on what you're looking for. I mean, there's a lot of good movies. It's just people get so caught up in making product for network filming instead of movies for theatrical or release because of the cost of production more than anything else. But they spend way too much money producing films that don't need the budget they need, or that they spend, I should say. A good example is that new Wonder Woman movie. Did not need to spend like, what was it, $300 million? I think they spent on that. It was some ridiculous sum. I could always go look that up real quick too. But yeah, I mean, if you can just look up horror hosts in general, I think there's quite a few of them out there, but I'm going to go ahead and not share this anymore. But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing with that. You got a lot of B movies in your collection.
Some, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
you're not a horror guy. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's some things you like. Don't get me wrong, but horror today is like blood and shock value. Then
yeah, that's I don't care for that.
I'd much rather see special effects like in The Thing with Kurt Russell and The Howling than the effects in movies now. Well, I think that has to do more with excessiveness, I guess, maybe, in the computer effects. It gets to the point where it's overdone and it's not. They're trying to make it realistic, but they take it so far that it becomes unrealistic. Whereas when you watch it in the old days, as it were, and something goes overboard and it's overboard, it can take you out of a movie, but you get the point that you're supposed to be laughing at it too, not get too immersed in it, I guess you could say. Mark Anderson says, hi, John. Hi, Lewis. Happy Friday. Happy Friday
Mark.
As well. I guess you just stepped in. We've kind of almost concluded our show. But that being said, we're talking right now about the new Twilight Zone by Jordan Peele and other current horror short fiction shows and stuff like that. I know you've been wanting to do something like that. At least I think that's what you said was into that sort of thing, Mark, where you do short stories type thing like that for TV, if you could. We'll talk about that a little bit, maybe. Where's the... I was trying to find something here, and I can't find it. I was going to look up something. What was I going to look up? I forgot. Okay, he says he didn't watch Twilight Zone, but he saw a few episodes of Black Mirror, which is, again, a similar motif TV series. Interesting. Again, I think a lot of the stuff that they make these days, it's like, well, this is for Netflix, this is for HBO Max, this is for Amazon, this is for Hulu. It's like, why don't you go put something on normal TV instead of the same old crap that's on the regular TV? Yeah. Star Trek, yeah. I think that's what you meant was Star Trek, but I was like, okay, Star Wars movie, the Star Wars movie, so okay. But either way, Pop Culture asks you what kind of vinyl you collect, John.
Oh, I have a little bit of everything. I have some rock. Like my favorite groups are the Carpenters and the Band. So I have them. I have some Christian music like the Bill Gaither Trio, some movie soundtracks, some children's and some Disney records. But then I also have all of Chris Stapleton's solo albums too. So a little bit of everything. About the only things I really don't listen to are rap and metal, really. But other than that, and of course I got some classical too.
They had your own choose your own adventure that you can make choices and the show could change. That's interesting. Again, there's whatever that's on. I've heard of it. I don't know what network you have to go by to watch it on, but Robbie Roberts.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, it's on Netflix. Okay. Yeah. See, I don't watch any of that stuff. I don't have any of that stuff to watch. So, in a way, that's good because there's so much stuff out there. We live in an age where there's just too much, and yet there's so much of it that's redundant to one another. Does it really need to be getting made? Does that? I don't know if it makes sense or not. I hope it's making sense, but yeah, it's like like you said, you haven't watched any of the DC stuff except Swamp Thing, and that was only because it was on the CW at first, and then you got the
Well, actually, I didn't even watch it on the CW. that it was one of the very few times I've blind bought a Blu-ray.
Oh, okay. All right. I could have sworn that you watched part of the first episode or something and then decided to get the Blu-ray, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I blind buy all the time. But like I got if I had the money, I'd probably buy 20 to 30 DVDs from Walmart every week.
Wow.
All those $5 to $9 nobody films that are B movies like Pop Culture's asking about. I would check some of those out just to see what they are because they look interesting to me, but I haven't got the money for it. You know, I haven't got $5 to $15 a video, you know, to spend on that. And even if I did, I don't think I'd have time to watch it all. But I think that's the thing. We have so much out there that I find it funny that people have to say this shouldn't exist because they don't like it or because it's not appropriate for their kids or, you know, censorship type stuff. The easiest answer is just not worry about that and go find something else that is appropriate and expose your kids to that or watch that or read that and enjoy it yourself. And don't worry about the other stuff. Because I don't think that a book about a guy who got a toe out of the ground and made stew with it and got trampled on by a zombie is going to lead people to, you know, mass murder or something.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it any more than, you know, the stuff that we did in comics in the 50s really led to juvenile delinquency or anything else like that. I think the juvenile delinquency issue of the 50s and 60s would be more due to, well, you figure the wives left the home while the men were overseas at war. They were handling the jobs. And they were getting back to, some of them wanted to stay in the workplace and some of them wanted to go home. And it changed our economy as to who could do work and where and how much. And I think that changed things in that part. And I think that led through the 60s and the cultural revolution we had with not just civil rights movement, but what was going on in Korea, what was going on in Vietnam, which led into the 70s and our OPEC crisis, which we already discussed as a lead into. All of this led us to having the family's dysfunction as people aren't there for one another. Pop Culture Vintage says a good B movie he watched recently was Robot Jocks. I know the name.
I've not seen it, but
I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but I have to look it up real quick. Okay, yeah, I've seen it. That's a while. Long time movie ago, like 30 years old. Didn't think it was that long ago, but yeah. Oh, wow. Did you get that on Blu-ray or did you see it on TV in the replay thing? Pop Culture. I'm trying to think of B movies. I mean, I don't know. I would say that the movie I just watched, Love and Monsters, is a B movie, but I wouldn't say it was a particularly good movie. I mean, it's enjoyable enough. But it's brain fluff. I mean, there's no sense to the story. That came out recently. Oh, he had it on VHS. Okay. What's that? Yeah, I still have a few VHS tapes.
As do I.
I just don't have anything to play them on right now. But I'm amazed that they haven't made a VHS Blu-ray player combo machine. But I know they've made them with DVD, but
yep,
they're hard to come. Even those are hard to find, and they're ridiculously expensive. And they're like, well, who needs VHS? People who have old video, who don't want to spend an exorbitant amount of money buying the stuff they already have. Because I can't get, like, I guess you can get Buffy or Angel or Babylon 5 on DVD now, but it's been so, what's the word, remastered?
Yeah.
That a lot of the diehards say it's not as good in the remastered editions. So I don't know. Interesting about that, but of course my shows aren't that. It's not like I bought them on that. I just taped them when they were airing originally. Pause for the video ad. Yeah. Restart recording when the show happens up again, type thing. Yeah, a lot. Well, the VH jacket art for a lot of the stuff is the movie posters. So, I mean, it's just a smaller version of the movie posters. A lot of the times nowadays, they have completely different stuff. It seems like, as you saw, when we were showing the movie, I showed the one poster with Harold, and then I started showing at the end there with the talking. I showed the illustrated graphics. Let me see if I can. Like that. Which I love this poster. I mean, this is really nice.
That is a very cool poster.
Yeah, I wish that had been the cover instead of the photo of Harold, personally. I don't know. Babylon 5 is one of his faves. Okay, that's cool. I like it, but I lost interest in it as I read Straczynski's novels and I started reading some of his earlier work. I could see where he was repeating himself, and it, they were like saying how original and thought provoking and everything this was. I was like, no, he did this already. So, but like I said, do like the poster there, and I wish I knew who did this and we'd get like an original or something, but I don't know. It's a shame that Aaron Lepresti couldn't tell us what he thinks of these sort of things, but he doesn't ever seem to. Whoops. Want to come on the show. So, oh well. Anyway, we are at our 1 hour and 30-minute mark, and I think we're going to call it a night because tomorrow afternoon, from 1 to 6, I will be opening the vault. And that means I'll have all new artwork to share, and I'll be doing a live draw as well. So what are you up to, and what's moving on for the summer for you, John?
Well, in addition to my day job and church music stuff, I have for the past month, for the month of May, I've been doing music rehearsals for Rock of Ages, which we're going to be, if you're in or near Lexington, South Carolina, we're going to do that show at the Ice House Amphitheater in Lexington on August 6th and 7th. And I'm the musical director, so I've been doing music rehearsals for that show. Sunday, I have orientation for another show that I'm the musical director for. The theater group I'm involved with, On Stage Productions, which I've got one of our old shirts on here. We sometimes do youth cabaret shows, kind of like a triple threat thing to help work on singing, dancing, and acting skills. So I'm gonna be doing that in the month of June. So I got two shows that I'm rehearsing for. So I'm keeping busy.
Yep. Which is why you probably won't see him for most of the rest of the summer on the show.
I'll pop in the chat when I can.
Yeah. But as I said, tomorrow afternoon, we will do the vault and live draw. We will have various sketch cards for sale. And we will have old and new original artwork as well. Here's some examples. This was a Inktober sketch that I decided to color from 2019. This is an oldie from 2009. And this I did today. And those three, among other things, will be available tomorrow night. Or I keep saying tomorrow night because I'm just doing the shows at night. But tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock to 6 p.m. for our live draw and our vault sale. So that will be what we're doing there. That being said, if you want to commission anything from me, you can get the Wingman sketchbook, our Lewis Bright Raven, volume 1, 48 pages black and white, originally published in July of 2011. And it is a 48-page black and white, 8.5 by 11 art book by me with a retrospective of my career that goes from the mid-'80s to 2011. Has over 50 original images of artwork and other stuff in it. You can get the regular edition for $10, say $20 with the shipping and handling, and a personalized sketch inside for $15 plus shipping and handling, say $25. To order, you go to PayPal, and you can order it at Quoth Raven LBR72@gmail.com, subject Wingman book. And you can tell me what you want for the sketch, and I can either draw it live on the show or do it off record, so to speak, and show you later, which is what I need to get done. I have a commission for Warren Montgomery to get done this week, Hulk sketch that he wants for his book. So if you have questions or want to talk to me, you can find me at Facebook, Lewis.BrightRaven, at Twitter at LewisBrightRave2. You can find my artwork at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You're watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven on YouTube. You can email me at quoththeravenlbr72@gmail.com. And if you can't reach me at that email address, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. Pop Culture Vintage says those are some nice pieces. I appreciate that. Mondays is our comic news and reviews. Wednesdays is our What Did You Get This Week. Thursday night is our usual round table talk. I usually try to have a guest and have topical discussion. It comes and goes different times. Sometimes I have to do a solo show or do a replacement show like I did this week with the Shoppers Night, I guess you call it. And then Fridays is genre night. Each week is a different genre, sometimes with guests, sometimes not. Next week, Friday, 9 p.m., we'll be talking manga, and I'll be reviewing slew of stuff. One Punch Man, Death Note, just all kinds of stuff I got from the library recently. I think you guys have seen me show that stuff on air recently in a few days, last few episodes. So we'll be talking about that stuff next week, Friday. And again, on Saturdays and Sundays, we have our live draw. And this week we have the vault, where I open up the vault and start selling original pieces. Again, I will have sketch cards, original sketches, comic book covers, with the blank covers, with sketches. I'll be live drawing all kinds of fun stuff. I think there will also be some prints available. I don't know yet. Whatever I can pull up. So that will be what we have. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and John will see you when we see you, I guess.
Yep.
Until then, everyone. Yep. But stay safe out there, and if you see something that you need me to talk about, you know how to reach me. So give me a heads up. All right, John?
All right.
And we'll go ahead and let you say goodnight before I sign off.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
And I'll see you guys tomorrow again, 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, have a good evening, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Mm-hmm.